Hey everyone, welcome to episode 5 of Two Drunks with a Mic. It's a podcast where we share our past so that others might have a future. You can find and subscribe to our podcast at twodrunkswithamic.com. In this episode, we pick up where we left off during my conversation with Gary Farrall in episode 4. So here we go. Episode 5, The Promises. How did your family now, how do they view things? How did that process happen? Because one of the things that's close to my heart, based solely on this family day experience that I had with my mom and everybody, was seeing things kind of click for them and then seeing my part, their part, moving past the blame game.
Yeah.
How did that process go, though?
It was quite a process, actually, and it took time, and all the way up to today. I mean, they know that they know they like you said, their action. They want to see that the action, constant action, and that's what I'm doing. If I'm not working, giving back, going to places and talking to the kids at Los Pilos Boys Camp, so on and so forth, and some of the panels, and they know that that's something that using the I statement, that I have to do. But it took time. It took time before they started to come around. That whole year that I was at the rescue mission. Like I say, just standing up there and not thinking that anybody was going to show up. And I turned around and there they are. And it was like I say, that's where I lost it. When they said that, and then we talked afterwards after the graduation. They said, just keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. And I've done that, and like I said, I love to give back now. I got to, always just keep myself, I can't have any downtime. I always got to be doing something.
Right.
If I have the downtime and then, and I start getting, different thoughts going through my head that don't last but a second, because I have ways to, to keep myself busy. They're back in my life, but they're also watching me at the same time, because they know, I've told them, my whole story, everything from beginning to end. And, it's nice because I don't have anything to hide anymore. They know everything, like I say, that, how I was, what I went through, everything that I did. And I don't have to lie anymore.
Right.
I don't have to cheat. I don't have to hurt anybody anymore.
Yeah.
And I can, just give back and try to help. And they see that. And that's, I think, what they like the most. My mom is actually, speaking of that, she's, I don't know how long ago it's been. It's probably been 4 years like that. Has gone, even gone to a couple meetings with me. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Coming in and, sitting down and, seeing what happens in a meeting.
There's a freedom in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing from you. And I get it. And I wish that anybody that might hear this gets that. I'm sure your health improved. I'm sure a lot of those things you started seeing clear. Things started making sense. You could hold a conversation, all these things that, it's those little pieces that kind of come along. And if we're honest, we're looking at those going, man, those are a blessing right there, because that was stripped from me.
Yeah.
What you just said to me, man, is that's huge. That freedom.
Yep.
And it starts with that hope. It starts with that mustard seed of action. Hope and action, man, those are the two things that equal recovery.
Yeah.
And we look at that from the beginning. You had your doubts. I had my doubts.
Oh, yeah. All the way.
Because of that self-loathing, all this guilt that we take in. And it's the old us that we don't want to get rid of. Yeah. And until that's stripped away.
True.
And that would be the one thing I'd really hope that people would key in on, is this freedom that does come with that.
Yeah. And that's one thing I didn't realize is, speaking of the freedom, but look at all of the different things that are promised to us in the promises. I wanted those things to happen right away, obviously. I didn't say that in the book. It says sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but they will always materialize if we work for them. Well, at that point, I wasn't putting in the work. I don't really care for the word work anyways, because it's work. But I always like to say that going through the steps, and the sponsor brought this to my attention also, since I didn't like the word work. He says, why don't you live the steps? I like that a lot better. And that things, that if somebody's going to promise me something, in the chapter of the promises, and they're going to put it in black and white print in the book, you better believe I'm going to make sure that I do whatever I got to do to make sure that those do materialize for me. And a lot of them have.
Right.
And freedom's one of them. Mm-hmm. And it didn't happen right away like I wanted to. But it's promised to us that it will materialize. Sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly, but we got to put out the work.
Right.
And I see that with a lot of people. You're right that we're just the same place that I was at. I wanted things quicker, and it wasn't happening.
Yeah, and that's that's a scary place to be, because that gives us a lot of time to start thinking, a lot of time to start manipulating an idea that may be given to us by a sponsor, out of the book, or even something that we may hear in church, or just wherever we pick up these kernels of wisdom that do make sense to us. Until you put action behind those, though, nothing's going to come to fruition, because we can, it's kind of like, I'm not an electrician. Going to Home Depot and buying a light switch and a book on a how-to doesn't make me an electrician.
Correct.
Hopefully.
I see what you're talking.
So, just reading a book doesn't make me the electrician.
Yeah. I
have to put the practical application into installing things, learning wiring, learning this. I'm not an electrician. Really, that's a true story. And I put light switches in our new house that we just bought, the whole time praying to God that I don't electrocute myself or burn the house down. But that, and I've always been one of those types of people that, I do like to do things. I do like to learn. I do like to put effort into things. I've found myself over the years, though, I've always struggled with this, is balance. Mm-hmm. Really struggling with balance. And I think that's what I was getting at a minute ago when my wife wanted to have that conversation.
Yeah.
I recognized it as a balance issue for me.
Yeah.
The honest part of me is going to have to say, absolutely. I can't blame her for feeling the way that she's feeling, because she's feeling that way by some action that I did.
Correct.
And you talk about freedom and just being able to recognize that and say, you know what, you're right.
Yeah.
It cost me nothing. It cost me zero to acknowledge somebody's feelings and say, you know what, you're right, I was wrong.
Yeah.
It costs you nothing. But the flip side of that, if you start playing that game back and rationalizing and blaming, that'll cost you everything.
That's right.
So
you couldn't have said it any better.
We're going back to that idea of something like the Genesis process, putting the work in, not relying on some magic pill that's going to say, hey, I'm just going to flip this and go out on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's true.
Hopefully we'll see you.
Yeah.
And we don't read your obituary or something else like that.
It's called incomprehensible demoralization.
The guys, there was a guy in the program, and man, this is one of the saddest things. And I don't know everything, how it all went down. But to me, it was a classic case of somebody that was so resistant, so wanting it, just didn't know how to get there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember him. He's passed away now. He OD'd in a motel room when we were still in the program. And that was his name was Bob. He was my dorm mate. He was an older guy, pretty well put together, diehard drunk, and diehard pill popper. And that is eventually what took him out, is he pulled some kind of shenanigans at the mission. They kicked him out because he broke the rules.
Yeah.
And they ended up finding him in a motel.
Wow.
OD'd. And that broke my heart. Him and I were very good friends in the program. I liked him.
Yeah.
He was an interesting guy. He was very smart, very well read. We had some great conversations. We used to do a lot of Bible studies and stuff together. Okay. I think he had a hard time really putting the pieces together, I think.
Yeah.
But it broke my heart, and when I heard that. when I heard that they'd found him.
They found him dead.
Yeah. And, really, the really sad part was he had a daughter.
Oh, wow.
And that was all he had in his life was his daughter. And she was trying to put pieces together and stuff. But
wow.
So many times, you hear about other guys passing out on railroad tracks. And, you hear about someone? Oh, yeah, he passed out on the railroad tracks. Like, ugh.
Wow.
He didn't get there on accident.
No.
And that's why I think, Randy says it all the time, is life and death.
It is. And
we want desperately to, number one, I guess, keep our lives intact, but help others.
Yeah. It's important.
And in that process of giving back, you're working that program.
Yeah. So it's nice. I really enjoy it.
Well, let me ask you this. How long were you using, Gary?
Oh, I would say, drinking started probably when I was around 8 years old, all the way up through, past high school, continually for 40 years.
Long time.
Yeah, long time.
Yeah. And I was just under 29 years, and that's where, to me, when I hear numbers like 40 and 29, and we throw those big numbers out, and I'm cautious about that, because I don't want to give somebody the impression that unless you have, 40 years drinking or 29 years drinking, that you need something like a program or something. There was, I don't know, you remember the kids that were in that program with us, 19 years old. It's like, what possibly could you have done in your life?
Exactly.
To get you. I'm thinking that going, dude, but bottom's relative, man.
Yep.
And if that kid, if his big blow, that got him in there was mommy taking the BMW keys away.
Yeah.
So be it. I'm not there to disparage that in any type of way.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I see for guys like, yourself, myself, a few others that we know that had long drinking careers and by the grace of God have been spared, the restoration is quick, relatively speaking. I'm 8 years sober. It'll be 9 years this coming August. I'm still in the red.
Yeah.
20 years.
20. Yeah.
I don't know if I'll live, I'll be 50 pretty soon. And I don't know if I'll ever live long enough to make up those 20 years.
Yeah.
But that is the really cool thing. We don't have to outlive it.
That's right.
We just need to, like you said, we need to be here for today.
Yep.
Take care of today. And you know what? There is a freedom that comes with that to make plans for the future. Say, hey, you know what, man? I'd like to do this in the future. I'd like to do something like that, and go with reasonable confidence that if you put the work in, if you really kind of stick to it, we're not afraid to ask for help, obviously.
Yeah.
You can get there. And I think that's the one thing, I'll go back to it again, that's the big mistake that I see with a lot of people. And it can be on both sides of that too. It can be with the addict, and it can also be with the family, with the loved ones. They'll just write it off and say, well, this is a hopeless situation. And as well as I do that there's nothing that's truly hopeless.
No, that's very, very true. I always, I don't know why this bringing this up right now, but I always end, like I say, the meetings that I do, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday meetings over at Path, and I always end a meeting like this, usually with the guys, the girls, whoever it is. It's mixed. Whoever shows up to the meetings is that if you're happy with your life the way it is now, being here in the homeless shelter, but basically where your life is going, don't change a thing. Don't change a thing. If you want a better life, then there's a way to do that. A lot of it, it hits them. It's like, of course, I'm not happy with my life. The way it is now, being in a homeless shelter, jobless, no money in my pocket, whatever. And there's a lot of them almost all the time it'll come up after the meeting, want to know more. Like I say, that one guy that wanted to know how the program worked, the honesty, open-mindedness, and the willingness. I said, well, share that with him. And now he's like gung-ho, man.
Yeah.
He's like gung-ho and just enjoying it.
Good.
Enjoying it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. And it's, speaking of blame, we mentioned that a minute ago. And I see that, at least from where I was in the homeless situation and all of that, we run out of things to blame. I think.
Very true.
Well, I should say we'd have to put a lot of effort into maybe finding things to blame, but that kind of gets old. So maybe sometimes we shift blame to ourselves. And I would say that blame doesn't belong there either.
No.
And it's that, I think that's a stumbling block for a lot of people, is that they feel guilty. They have to blame themselves for certain things. And I think that there's a difference between taking responsibility and blaming. We do have to take responsibility for what we've done, and that's part of the program. That's part of a healthy type of program.
Yeah.
But it's getting over that shame, I guess, that blame.
Oh yeah. The shame. My hardest thing I had with myself, being the I statement, was my self-worth was shit. I felt that I was the biggest piece of shit around, of everything that I did. I was of hurting people, lying to people. I was the biggest piece of crap. My self-worth was that big.
Mm-hmm.
So it took a lot of work to change that around. Where going through the process. I'm still living it today, every single day.
Yeah.
And I got to do that because, I see that a lot out there. There's a lot of people that are really down on themselves, first and foremost.
Right.
Or like you say, like we talked about earlier, hating God or not understanding God or not understanding a power greater than themselves. And I understand that too, because that's where I was. I didn't know how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you hear some of those people sharing why, and it's like, ooh, gosh, I can understand why you're coming by that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just throwing that portion out there because you one of the things that is so unique about models like AA or NA or any of these or any one of those types of fellowships is this empathy that we have for one another. And it can't be manufactured. It can't be somehow produced out of thin air.
No.
Real knows real. And I've been asked over the years to talk to somebody who somebody might suspect is an alcoholic or a drug addict or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm very careful about how I may or may not approach that. And I'll be like, how about I look at him from across the parking lot, and I'll tell you, but I'm not, I know how I would react to it. And I'm not about getting in somebody's face about anything, because that just doesn't work.
No. And
that's something that I would hope that family members who are struggling could come to understand, is that you can cry and you can scream and you can reason. You are talking to somebody that is not going to respond to it.
Yeah.
At least not where I was.
No.
And I know it wasn't where you were.
No, not at all.
And but the magic of it is your sponsor came from maybe a similar place that you did, knew what got through to him, and presented those back to you.
Exactly.
And here we are.
Exactly.
My sponsor did different things.
Yeah.
But as different as everybody in every room is, we have a common malady.
That's right.
And we have that empathy built in at that point to say, man, I get where that guy's coming from.
Yeah.
And I really want what he has, not that maybe the exact brand of what he has, but I want a piece of what he has,
Yeah.
Strike up a conversation and go with it from there.
That's what's nice about about the program is that, and especially like you said, you and Randy doing this, that, hopefully even if there's one person out there that hears something or can relate with something or wants help or whatever, that it's out there, that's available.
Right.
Like I say, it was one of the hardest things for me to do. Like we talked about earlier, was ask for help, because I thought I was going to get a no, I can't help you, and it wasn't the case. Thank God. Hopefully somebody that's listening, to any of whether your podcasts and stuff like that, that wants help, that that it is available, and
Sure.
to reach out.
Yeah. And there's no shortage of help out there, and free help.
Correct.
I was talking to a couple the other day. They knew somebody, and they really wanted to get some resources to a family member who was struggling with somebody who was an addict in their family. And they were hooked up with some church in Santa Barbara. And I said, okay, you're going to want to go see this person, and they could probably get you in touch with these people. Outside of that, I really don't know. But they were so thankful, man, that they're like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, you're right at the front door. Just walk, You might have to do some legwork. That's the thing about the family. They can do the legwork.
Yeah.
But getting that person to agree to go there, man, it's like I've done panels at 5 East, and it's like you're talking to zombies.
Yeah.
They're there because they were either put there by the police or somebody like that, and they're like,
not going to have it.
They're looking at their wall, or the clock on the wall, when's lunchtime.
Yeah, unfortunately, those doors are locked too.
Yeah, and that is the one message that I don't think is out there enough to family members that are struggling, is that unfortunately recovery only works for somebody that wants it.
Correct.
There is no magic bullet. There is no magic pill, but yet there are people out there that are saying, we guarantee, or you can get over this. Or it's like, man, save your money.
Yeah. Don't go to the Malibu resort or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, and I don't know a lot about, I just know enough to say, I would be skeptical before I wrote anybody a big check like that. There's a program like we went through, Santa Barbara Rescue Mission. There is one down in Southern California that I know is successful, and that's at U-Turn for Christ.
Okay.
They're pretty successful people. They charge a little bit, but it doesn't seem outrageous. I don't know a lot about it.
Is that the one that Todd?
Yeah, he was running that for a while, but their model of how they do things is much different than the program we went through at the Santa Barbara Rescue Mission. I like the idea of something like a longer term mission or program, because like you said, dude, in 60 days, you're starting to just feel better.
Yeah.
But you have zero tools.
None.
In your toolbox.
Yeah.
You've talked to a sponsor probably every week for that period of time, and you might still be trying to figure him out.
Yeah.
But it's that continual, gradual stepping, living the steps, like you said.
Yeah.
There is no elevator.
No.
You got to go.
No.
You do have to, we're just full of cliches, right?
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah. Like I had a hard time. I mean, they said get a sponsor, and I would think to myself, well, get a sponsor. They said, what do you mean? So somebody to take you through the steps that's, in the program, and another addict or alcoholic. And I said, you mean to tell me another addict or alcoholic is going to help me?
Right.
I said, yeah, absolutely.
I want to ask you something. and Randy and I talk about this a little bit. And I'm sure you've run into it maybe in the rooms. I want to get your opinion on this. This idea that there's some sort of difference between an alcoholic and an addict, where to the point where they're like, oh, you can't mention that in this room. I personally have been in rooms where it's like, well, we can't talk about that type of thing.
Never.
Or
I've heard it a little bit, but I've also and being a drugs or alcohol. Well, they're both a drug.
Right.
So I would bring up whatever, if I use, or if somebody used, Coke or pills or whatever it is, and then they drank or whatever.
An addict's an addict.
You're an addict.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no, you bring up whatever you want, but there's some that are, there's some people saying, this is AA meeting. This is an NA meeting. I don't really, I go to the AA meeting and I bring up drugs, every now and then. And there's people that do, and I haven't really heard anybody say anything. You can't bring up a drug situation in an AA meeting why not? They're both drugs.
Right.
And an addict, it doesn't really matter what.
Because the program model is the same.
Yeah.
It's going to work regardless because, and that was something that was, I used to go to the NA meetings on Saturdays because Eddie would drag us along to his home group.
Yeah.
And at the beach. Yeah. And they were cool, man. I didn't have a problem with those. Even though I was going to, like legs or
without legs. Yeah.
Some of these other meetings, veterans and stuff like that. But there was, to me, there was kind of an element that I couldn't relate to at an NA meeting because I wasn't really, a crackhead or a heroin addict, but I did. So I couldn't relate to them in experience, but I could definitely relate to them in the way they thought.
Yeah.
So I took that, and some of the better meetings I went to were NA on that beach.
Yeah.
I think I know Randy's on the East Coast.
Okay.
And he was telling me that, and he's originally from Ohio.
Okay.
So Cleveland, the Cleveland area, or maybe it's Cincinnati. I apologize, Randy, if I got that wrong. But he was telling me that the meetings, in Ohio are much, much different than they are on the East Coast.
I'll be darned.
As far as what they really allow you to talk about inside some of those meetings. Now, my take on it is, hey, man, if you don't jive with a meeting, go down the street to the next one.
Yeah.
Don't think that just one meeting speaks for the whole program.
Yeah. No, that's true.
But you go to the Alano Club and they have the whole thing. I mean,
that's true.
12, they have a whole bunch. I think they have Cocaine Anonymous or something.
They have CA, SA, LA, whatever A you got.
Yeah.
Just bring it on in.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm fascinated by that stuff because I would legitimately ask that question of an addict's an addict. That's my estimation. But am I right? And I pretty
absolutely.
much would think that anybody that's addicted to, I would kind of regard it as an addiction is one of those things that causes a person to mold their life into a pattern.
Yeah, that's true. But wanting to, you're right, pattern. I guess a pattern is probably the easiest to mention it. Of, just like the guy, the theater, somebody that wants to run their life like when I was out there, my way. But obviously didn't work, and it usually won't for anybody that's trying to do that. That's an addict. It's it's about getting out of self. It's not about Gary. It's
or
about,
Keith.
or Keith, Gary Keith, whoever it is that I told you I was. That was the hardest thing. It's like I said earlier. I don't have to do that anymore. It's not about Gary Keith or Gary, whoever it is that I lied to you about before. And now it's just like I say, it all comes back to giving back and helping.
Right.
It's probably the best thing, one of the best feelings that I've ever had. It's just awesome. Yeah,
it's a great model. You've gone to school. You're a counselor.
I'm actually going to the only certificate that I've got is my mental health.
Okay.
And I need to continue. I need to finish for my drug and alcohol.
Oh, okay.
But I do have my certificate for mental health. So I want to do actually alcohol, drug, and mental health.
So you catch that co-occurring disorder,
correct,
type stuff.
Yeah. I started that here at Allen Hancock.
Yeah, I took the co-occurring disorders. I've taken a break from school just because of having the baby at home and everything. It's just got to be a little bit too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an eye-opening class, that co-occurring disorders, and it really opened my mind up to a whole different realm.
Yeah.
Of, gosh, I don't know. I didn't know about this, and I wish that I would have known more about it when I was in the program, because there was guys in there that used to rub me the wrong way. And they'd say, "Well, I'm dual diagnosed. I'm this and this," and it's almost like they were telling me like it was an excuse.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, though, it wasn't. They were trying to educate me.
Correct.
They were trying to say, "Hey, man, I can't help the way that I am in this way because of this.
This is why."
Yeah, and that's one thing I really would give kudos to the mission for, is they seem to be ahead of their time when it came to dealing with a lot of that.
Yeah.
they knew, so they'd get those guys the care that they needed outside of what they could do.
Correct.
Because, one of the big questions that I see floating around, and it's very controversial in a lot of ways, is this idea of whether or not addiction is a disease or a symptom. And, it's easy in a conversation.
Yeah.
It's very easy to just say, well, this disease is a killer. This is that. On the flip side of that, though, you can look at it from a symptomatic model and say, what's driving this person?
Correct.
What brought this person to this point? Or did the addiction start and then these things happen? It's a very convoluted thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I try to be open-minded on both sides, because when it does come down to other types of addictions, like say pornography or eating,
gambling, whatever.
Yeah. What drives those might look different to some people than, say, an alcoholic or drug user.
That's true.
But in reality, are they? Is there something that's pushing those people?
It's all got to come from something, somewhere, something that, like you say, that you're right. It gets complicated. I don't want to explain it.
Or at the end of the day, Gary, is it what they claim it to be in the big book? It's all a spiritual malady.
Yeah, that's a good question.
The doctors didn't know what to do, so they brought in these guys. And so from a symptom model, you could say, but they, then AA refers to it as a disease, as these types of things. And, and that's a very deep, controversial type of thing. And a lot of people, I put a poll up on Facebook because I was curious.
I saw that.
And so
63%.
Yeah. Thought it was a disease.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool, but when I wrote that article on the blog, I'm not wanting to give an answer. However, my point in asking that question, though, was to get people thinking, because I do believe that it has a reflection on how we may view recovery or a loved one's view on that person. Is there something that they may be doing that they need to take responsibility for, or change in how they interact? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
I don't know.
It's very.
That's a deep, kind of convoluted question, but those are the types of things I am interested in, and why I do want to go to school and kind of pursue that, because I want to try to
understand that.
I do want to understand it, and I think my desire to understand it comes from, I don't want to damage anybody. I don't want to say something to somebody that's going to make them feel less than or anything like that. So I want to be open to a lot of that type of stuff. But the one that, and I'll say it again, man, I dig my heels into this whole idea that you can be cured.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can be cured. Yeah, you'll be cured. You don't have to do this anymore.
Yeah. My takeaway on our conversation here is hope.
Hang on, pain ends.
Yeah. And also, man, it takes some work or some living, as you put it, and not this instant gratification and these promises and that's one of the things I've always said was, that to somebody that may not know anything about AA or any type of program, is I believe that the tenets in AA, they could benefit anybody's life.
Oh yeah,
just taking responsibility for things, making amends, doing. I guess, like I mentioned to Randy before, it's basically adulting.
Yeah,
you're relearning how to become an adult.
Yeah. And
it may sound funny to somebody to say, what do you mean relearning? They don't understand that when you were out there 40 years, almost 29 years, whatever it is, you get stripped
of a lot of time.
You get stripped of any kind of emotional growth.
Yep.
We're stuck at that 14, 15-year-old or 13-year-old or 8-year, and we develop our mode of thinking around what we want to do.
Exactly.
And, for, I don't know how your cycle of drinking started, if it was for fun or if it was for...
It was the effect. I liked the effect at first,
Yeah.
Then I tried to drown everything out, all the feelings, and just life in general. I just didn't want to, like I said, didn't want to deal with it anymore.
So were some of those feelings that you were trying to get, were those already in place before you drank?
Oh yeah, they were in place. Yeah. And I just had enough because things weren't going the way that I wanted them to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it always ticked me off, pissed me off. So I figured, well, why not screw everybody, right? And start drinking and drink some more, and then go to the stores and steal from all vanilla extract from the stores.
Yeah.
Did whatever Gary wanted to do.
Right. It's amazing how resilient we can become, though, in that cycle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're masters at shifting on the fly. It's like, okay, security guard. Oh, I'm going to go over here and just as an example. But yeah, that's the one thing that I look back on, and like you mentioned early in this conversation, not to glorify it or anything like that, or fantasize about those types of things, but as reminders. And we look back and be like, oh my gosh, man, I'm lucky I didn't kill somebody when I was driving around drunk.
Yeah. That's just...
and we or walk in and carry a gun in some place where I shouldn't have been, or any number of things, man. By all rights, I should be in prison. There's no two ways about that. And I think if we are honest and we look back, there's a lot of things we could have caught some significant time.
Oh yeah,
behind, but for whatever reason that never happened. That didn't mean trouble wasn't there. It just means I had better lawyers.
That's right.
Yeah. But that, I think about that, and then I think about those that are still out there struggling, or they're new in the program and their hope is starting to wane a little bit and fail. Then I think about, and I keep going back, and it's just such a tender spot in my heart thinking about the families that struggle with it out there too.
Yeah, it's difficult.
And because I know the damage that I've done to my family, and you spoke about the damage that you'd done to your family to the point where we didn't know what they were going to do. Were they done with us? And that just that kind of textbook, big book stuff where they're pleading and crying and screaming. It's like, blow them off.
Oh yeah.
And that it's like I said in that last episode, that lady that came up to me and I told her to pray, and she's kind of like looked at me all weird, but it's like, that's the one thing that I know that got me out of where I'm at.
Yeah.
I don't have any flowery answers for you.
Yeah.
Not that it'll help you. Not at this point, not where you're at now.
Yeah.
I don't have the hope. Within me, I don't have the hope to give you.
Yeah. Correct.
But I know where that came from for me and my friends that, had prayed for me and stuff. And, anyway, man, it's
tough.
It is.
And it's neat because there's a couple of guys that I work with, Bonzies, and one of the guys came up to me. It was probably maybe a month or two ago, something like that. That's what I told him. I said, you need to pray on it. He says, I don't know how to pray. I said, what are you talking about? He says, I don't know how to pray. So you're talking to me, right? I said, yeah. I says, just talk to God just like you're talking to me. It doesn't need to be, he thought it needed to be all, fancy worded and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How he's heard people pray before. I said, you don't know. I said, absolutely not. I said, you're talking to me just fine. Just talk to God. Ask God. He said, oh, okay. And he's doing it. He's doing the deal. He's doing, really well. It's just simple things like that, I asked him, I said, you just got to let me know what's going on,
Right.
We don't know.
Things we take for granted sometimes that we, like I mentioned earlier, that we forget.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're hopefully getting as much out of these meetings that you're running as you're given.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Keeping you.
I love it. And it's a great life. It's like I said at the very beginning. I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah. I know. We're sitting here and we're talking a lot about AA and all these cliches because they just pop out because they're things that we've heard, we either hear over and over or had heard over and over. And, we kind of laugh. And I don't know if you ever remember John Gabbert saying it was your best thinking that got you here.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And I don't know if it pissed you off as much as it pissed me off.
Yeah.
But it was like...
It was your...
What are you talking? And it wasn't until quite a bit later, man, that it actually
started to click.
Started to click.
Yeah.
I'd love to get him on this program, man, because gosh.
Oh yeah.
That some of the stories he would tell about being in a motel and was it acoustic ceiling? He's sniffing the acoustic ceiling off.
He's scraping it off the roof until it hit the floor.
But, you talk about, somebody that has got a pretty amazing story.
In his cardboard condo.
Yeah.
And he had it all set up.
In Skid Row. That was in L.A., wasn't it?
Yeah.
Man. But, shoot, Gary. Well, man, I do appreciate you coming on here. And,
thank you.
We, like you said, we don't have it all figured out.
That's okay.
None of us.
That's all right.
I hope. I don't ever want to be in that position though, where I think, I have it all figured out.
You got it.
I used to
figure it out. Yeah.
I've lived that, and that was where I was before, and like you had mentioned, that you're God. Boy, I'll tell you what. If people think that that's tongue in cheek, man. I'm here to say it's not.
That's right.
I mean, we absolutely believe that, and all we had to worry about it was drinking, or using,
and that was enough work.
It was too much work. And a minute ago you said you hate the word work.
Yeah,
but that's the irony of the whole thing is that there's a lot less work in recovery than there is in maintaining addiction.
Yeah. It's amazing.
You're sitting there, worried about
that. And I got to go down to the store and steal more vanilla extract and keep that same routine going. Now, praise God, I get to go into the store and I can walk down the bacon aisle and buy whatever it is that I need. The sugar I need, or cake mix. I don't need the vanilla extract anymore.
No. No. I remember after being out of the program, I actually went to the sober living for 6 months.
Across the parking lot?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I had a couple of guys I went through the program with were my roommates at separate times. I was just in a two-man room there. But 6 months, man, that was about all I could take of that place.
Yeah.
And it wasn't... And part of it was me. I'm like, there has to be more to this recovery than living with, where you could get woke up at any time of the day
I know exactly
and pee or breathalyze or anything like that. It's like, especially if you had a dodgy roommate.
Yeah.
And you knew they were out.
Yeah.
It's like, and you're not going to say anything because it's kind of like,
that's true.
Sorry. And, Rick coming in, hey, where's so-and-so? It's like, man, I don't know. Maybe at work. I don't know. 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's, you kind of know. But I really trusted in the process. I trusted in the program. I trusted where God had placed me. I trusted the things that I had learned.
Yeah.
And I wanted to put them to the test because I knew that it's a safety net to me. It seemed like it's kind of a safety net. Uh-huh. No, I don't want to get kicked out of here because I don't want to go live on the street. So I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to use. I'm going to follow the rules. I'm going to pay my rent. But I knew I'd have to do all those things anyway on the outside, so why not put them to the test out there?
True.
You know, and I've been blessed, you know, I've not relapsed, but, you know, you always have to put a yet or kind of in there because it's always in the back of your mind. You know, I don't want to rest on my laurels and say, nah, I'm good to go.
Yeah, no.
I'm going to drink some near beer with the boys.
Drink some near beer. Yeah. Just one.
Right. You know, and because I'm not that, fortunately, I'm not that foolish anymore. I know better, man.
Yeah.
And I you know, you talked about vanilla extract. A couple of years ago, some good friends of ours, he made some homemade vanilla extract for us. And he put the ingredients on the bottle. It's vodka and a vanilla bean is what it is. And I looked at it and I told my wife, don't ever cook anything. Don't ever use that.
Don't ever use it.
in my anything you make for me. You know, because it was, man.
Pretty gnarly. Oh, yeah.
Now, I want to ask you something. I don't remember all the details, but a couple years ago, you had a fairly significant medical happening.
Yeah, that was a semi-stroke on my whole. Well, it's called. I'm taking gabapentin for it, but it was I lost the feeling in my whole right side.
Okay.
And I was at Cottage for a while, and then they took me from Cottage to a convalescent home off of La Cumbre in Santa Barbara. I was there for about 3.5 months.
Wow.
Long story short, it came down to it was like a stroke.
Okay.
You know, that I had, and still today, my right side is. How do I explain it to people? Like when you have when your foot goes to sleep.
Yeah.
That kind of
tingling.
That tingly feeling.
Yeah.
That's my whole right side.
Oh, wow.
I take gabapentin for it. I take 800 milligrams of gabapentin today. And it just kind of takes the edge off. But I've been living with it for so long. I'm almost used to it.
Now, were they able to determine what caused that, or it was to have anything to do with your drinking?
It may have been the drinking. The drinking part of it. But I can't remember. I don't think there was an actual diagnosis of why it happened.
Right. Now, through that process, though, you're in the hospital and going through this. I remember seeing your post, and
doctors basically said that I would never walk again without using a crutch.
Right.
You know, I was in a.
But you just jumped out of your Fiat and ran in here. I couldn't keep up with you.
Exactly. No, because I was in a. Yeah, because the convalescent home, I was in a wheelchair, and they took me from the wheelchair to a 4-wheel walker with the tennis balls in the front. I thought it was like trying to race that up and down the convalescent home hallways. And then from there, I graduated from that out to a cane, just using a walking cane for quite a while. And I used that for almost a little over a year. And then they increased my physical therapy a little bit more. Which was a lot of pool therapy, walking in the water.
Yeah. So long road.
To the point now where I don't need anything.
Long road.
Yeah.
Was there ever any point in that time where you maybe started? Did your program suffer? Did you kind of? No. Were you? How did you manage that?
It was actually better. Because there was people that were. I had a really hard time, especially when I was at the convalescent home, of getting out. You know, I mean, because there was one panel that came, I believe it was like every Tuesday or something like that, once a week, that came to the convalescent home, and would do meetings there.
Oh, really?
Bring a meeting to the convalescent home, but it was kind of cool because there was a lot of people that I was originally living with when I was at All Star Recovery on Cala Real that would come pick me up. They could sign me out of the convalescent home and take me to meetings. Okay. Which was really cool.
Yeah.
It was really neat.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
If not, then my sponsor would come over and something like that. We'd sit down and do book or
You just took it in stride.
Yeah.
You it's like, this might be me for the rest of my life, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And
I was bound and determined to prove the doctors wrong.
So that kept you focused.
That was my goal.
And you knew you wouldn't be able to do that if you went back to your old.
No way. And I wanted to prove them wrong, saying that I will walk again without a crutch.
Right.
And like I said, here my day, I'll race you back out. I'll race you back out there right now.
No way, old man. But yeah, That's awesome, man. I had that in the back of my mind before we sat down, and because one of the things Randy talked about before was he had a gallbladder operation, and they gave him opiates, and he was 15 years clean, and he was prescribed these things.
Yeah.
But from a recovery standpoint, he's solid. He knows his way of thinking shifted, he knows better.
Yeah.
He doesn't need that, but he definitely, man, he's like, I had to tell my wife to throw him away. It was because I felt myself wanting that. Yeah. And I think that's what I was getting at a minute ago when I was asking about the landscape of things, because opiates, in my experience with them, they're a completely different animal.
Oh, yeah.
They're not premeditated, I'm going to go drink.
Yeah.
These are relatively passive. When it comes, you can wake up within a matter of days addicted to those things.
Yeah.
With no fault of your own. And it happens every day.
That's true.
So I look at that and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is a different totally type of thing.
Yeah.
And I knew, like I said in that one episode, I love drinking so much that I knew I was taking them because of my surgery here, but I was managing those to the hour,
Just the way they.
Exactly.
That's the way it was prescribed.
Yeah, because I was afraid of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were oxycodines. And the guy asked me, he goes, do you want Oxycontin? I remember the doctor asked me, you want Oxycontins? I'm like, and this is right around the time that Rush Limbaugh had his whole thing. And I'm like, you trying to turn me into a junkie? I'm like, no way. And I'm like, no way. He's like, well, how about these oxycodines? Well, okay, that's better.
Oxycodone, that's better.
Yeah, I didn't know better, man. That's not my thing, But yeah. Anyway, brother, I really, really, really do appreciate you coming on here, man, and doing what you do in recovery and in Santa Barbara. So you're down there full time, and you do your meetings.
Yeah.
Which meetings are those?
They're at Path Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay.
And then I do the Start Your Day Right, which is at the Veterans Building.
Right.
Upstairs.
That's a good meeting.
It's a good meeting. And then usually doing about, I'd say doing probably about 5 a week.
Okay.
Try to. Occasionally there's only, there's weeks I only have 2, 3, whatever.
Yeah, sponsees.
But at least three of them.
3? Yeah. Do you ever have more than that, or that's just kind of where you...
I think more than that, it'd be tough.
Yeah.
I wouldn't turn anybody down that's asking for help or asking for that.
Right.
But I'd maybe try and, guide them to, to another person to be like a temporary sponsor for them or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because the last thing I want to tell somebody is no, can't help you.
Right.
Because that's what
that's what
my fear was.
Now, do you, have you had any of your sponsees that have gone on? Now they have sponsees and
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, one that's doing the deal. He's got. I think he has 2 sponsees. In fact, I just talked to him 3 days ago. Yeah,
that's cool, man.
Tony, he's a cool guy.
Yeah,
cool guy.
That's one of those. It's nice. The success stories. We sit here and talk about life and death and the almost hopelessness of some of these situations.
Yeah.
But out of it too, there comes these successes, that we're really get excited about, because it's like when Randy and I talked about this whole prospect, like, I don't care if this one person hears this,
that's right,
and it changes their life. It's not going to change my mission in it. If I had other designs outside of that, I don't think I'd want to do it, because I would have recognized it's like, I'm doing it for the wrong thing.
Yeah.
All right.
One day at a time. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate you coming down, and we'll talk to you.